And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? I have friends that are firefighters and I know that they use soap.
And she was screaming at me over soup.
Fuck this, I am not ever talking to a Scientologist again. These people are all insane.
I'm putting my bricks in the dumpsters, motherfuckers. Do you see me, bitches? I'm throwing my bricks. And he's just like chucking bricks.
Welcome to a Talking Shit About Microsode, a little treat in between episodes where I, Elizabeth Wibberman, interview someone about something they love, something they hate, something they've been through, or something they just know a lot about, and hopefully by the end we've all learned something. I had the idea to do this self-care topic as I was working on the bipolar episode, but at the time of this recording, anti-ICE protests are all across our country, and I see everyday people putting their lives on the line to protect their fellow community members. I have so much admiration for the people of LA and all across the country for standing up to injustice. I think it's important that in these tumultuous times, those fighting the good fight take the time to take care of themselves too. Before we begin, I'd like to provide a disclaimer. I am not a mental health professional. I am a peer support specialist, meaning I have lived experience with mental health and addiction and use that experience to walk alongside people who are going through their own challenges. None of this is professional advice, just some tips from my own experience that you may or may not find useful. Every brain is different, and not every self-care practice will work or resonate with everyone. My recommendation is to try things, preferably backed up with some scientific research, see what works, and create your own self-care routine and practices. On that note, The Guardian recently published an article that states in an investigation they conducted, more than half of the top 100 mental health TikToks contain misinformation, some of the content being misleading or even harmful. While connecting with others about our shared experiences can be healing and validating, it's important to take advice with a grain of salt, especially when the person is not a mental health professional. So in this microsode, I will be sharing things that I have found helpful in my own life in the hopes that you may gain some new healthy tools. Remember, not everything works for everyone. First tip I have for you is, guess what? You can meet with a mental health professional. Geographical location and insurance can make this a challenge, but you can visit 211.org or call 211 to find providers in your area that will work for you. Keep in mind that every therapist is different, each with different training, specialties, and personalities. If you don't mesh well with your therapist or psychiatrist, you can always try another professional if your circumstances allow. I've had to shop around for therapists to find ones that I click with, and don't even get me started on how many psychiatrists I had to get through to find my current one, who thankfully I love. And something to keep in mind with therapy is that, like everything else, it isn't necessarily for everyone. Personally, I found therapy to be helpful when tackling or addressing specific problems, but didn't have that much success with CBT or DBT, whereas others find those therapies extremely helpful. If you're looking for a mental health provider, I recommend looking for therapists that are trained in whatever you're struggling with or whatever experiences you're struggling with. So specifically like autism, ADHD, or something traumatic that happened. Or look for therapists that are trained in the modalities you want to try, like CBT or EMDR. My second tip is one you've probably heard 1,000 times before, but just hear me out. Journaling. And when I say journaling, I don't mean it has to be a diary you write in every day. In fact, journaling can take many forms. In my own life, I have a few different journals. One is a traditional notebook that I pull out to get overwhelmingly negative emotions out, writing without judgment until I start to feel some release. Sometimes instead of writing, I'll draw what I'm feeling. I also use this journal to detail memorable events or people I've met because I have a shit memory and don't want to forget things that were important to me. A journal that I use more regularly is my ritual planner, link in the show notes, not an ad. I use tarot cards as a tool to organize my thoughts and get alternate perspectives of what's going on around and inside me. I like having the ritual planner because I can flip back throughout the year and keep track of the things that have been bothering me, challenges I faced, as well as my strengths and positive changes I've made. Another form of journaling I do is through prompts on my Finch app. More on that later. The last journal I'll mention is one for positivity. It has quotes from books like The Bipolar Game Changer, goals of the person I want to be, my accomplishments, and notes from others that made me feel good about myself. It's a great tool for when my self-esteem needs a boost. The mental health field strongly suggests journaling or expressing your thoughts and emotions onto paper or a notes app can be a helpful tool for many people. There are a plethora of different apps and guided journals out there to get you started. The next tip is a hot one, and to be honest, the one that I struggle with the most. Be kind to your body. Everyone has different physical capabilities, energy, and access to healthy food, so I won't preach to you to exercise every day or only eat certain foods. I deal with body dysmorphia, so I tend to be very disconnected from my body and try to avoid looking at myself. So recently, I've started utilizing my Finch app to keep track of healthy habits. Again, more on that later. Some things I struggle with that I have on my lists are to eat a piece of fruit, drink water, do yoga or stretch, plug my eyebrows and mustache, clip my nails, and walk a certain amount of steps. I am chronically tired, so I've spent the last year or so developing a routine that matches my energy level, and lots of times I find myself going above and beyond my goals, which is always a great feeling. So when making changes to take care of your body, start small and be realistic. You can always up your goals later. I found that working with my therapist to create my self-care plan was helpful, as I tend to overshoot my goals, and my therapist kept me realistic and kind to myself. Another tip I have for you is when you're in a good headspace, make a list of all of the activities you enjoy. Some of mine include hiking, playing video games, listening to music, baking, eating chocolate, sitting in the sun, smelling lilacs, and playing with my dogs. Something you may notice in these activities is that they are for a variety of energy levels and appeal to different bodily senses. I personally utilize a list format, but some people will write their ideas on slips of paper and put them in a jar and do whichever activity they pull from the jar. Making a list of things you enjoy, no matter how big or small, can be helpful for when you need a boost but aren't sure where to start. For the sake of keeping this Microsode micro, I have one last tip I want to share, which is to utilize apps. One note I want to share about using apps is that if you are in an unhealthy relationship or living situation and aren't guaranteed privacy on your device, be cautious about what you write, and if you can, set up a passcode to limit access. Now, I'm sure there are a billion self-care apps out there, but because I've been using Finch for over a year and it's one of the top apps in the Apple App Store, I figured I'd share what I love about it. Again, not an ad. Finch is an app where you have a little bird who grows and goes on adventures as you complete your self-care goals. You can customize your bird and birdhouse, collect micro pets, and send encouragement and items to friends. Because I'm forgetful and a visual person, I find the goals feature to be the most useful. As mentioned earlier, I have goals ranging from basic self-care things I forget to do, like showering or drinking water, to cleaning the litter box, to posting content on social media for the podcast. A relatively new feature they released are self-care areas where you can put your goals into different categories. So for example, some of the categories I have are for self-kindness, connection, my podcast, and home love. Other useful features of the app are guided breathing, guided stretches, reflection on journaling prompts, soundscapes, and a first aid kit, which provides different grounding techniques, more journaling prompts, and a button to click to take you to helplines. There is a paid version of the app, but I've been using the free version for over a year now, and I'm pretty happy as is. I'll have a bunch of resources for you in the show notes, including a link to the University of Buffalo's Self-Care Starter Kit, which I found useful when starting my own care plan. I wish you the very best in finding and utilizing tools to make positive changes in your life. Remember that you are a unique miracle worthy of love, life, and human rights. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you on August 4th for our next interview, which is a Star Trek episode.